Welcome to our weekly session on Tazkiyah bil-Quran, or the healing of the heart with the Quran. For those of you who attend on a regular basis, you know, and for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to share a quick summary of what we're doing here. This is a weekly session where we're going through the 30th juz of the Quran presently, and with each surah of the Quran, our focus is not necessarily on the academic aspects, but on the way the verses of the Quran touch our hearts. So today, inshallah, in that series, we'll be doing Surah Zalzala. But as always, we will start with a review of what we covered last time. So the surah that we did last week was Surah Al-Bayyinah. And there were 3 points that we made in this surah. The first thing was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the good inside of people and the bad inside of people obvious through the clear proof of Islam, which means our intentions and our choices to do good or bad, they come from inside of us. How we are inside, that determines how we are outside. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of it pushes us to make that decision clear by presenting us with a clear proof of what is the truth and what is not. And making that choice brings the inside on the outside. The second point that Surah made was that people quarrel among themselves and eventually form cliques because they don't want to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering them to do. So this is a human tendency. And from that surah, we learned that we should be aware of that. And of us, of course, having that tendency as well. The third thing was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the best of all people, khairul bariya, and the worst of all people, sharul bariya. And also mentions that they live together in this world. We live together with other people. Some of us are among the khairul bariya, other ones are among the sharul bariya. And that's going to be my segue into Surah Zalzala, which we're going to talk about today. There are good people and bad people. And of course, it is our choice to fall into one of those two categories. Which one are we going to do? One will, of course, have a bunch of challenges at this time, and the other one will have challenges in the future. The real question is, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us about what will happen to the khairul bariya and the sharul bariya? What will happen to people if we let's say make the effort to make some good choices? How does that benefit us? How does that affect us? Why would we try? Why would we make the effort? The answer to that question is given in the Quran in many different places. It falls in 3 categories. So take note of these 3 categories. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appeals to our sense of good and bad. That's one way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does that. We know inside of us, through our nature, the way Allah has created us, we know something is right. Telling the truth is good. Being kind to other people is good. Helping other people is good. Being respectful to our parents is good. Being kind to our children is good. All of that, all of those good things, we know that from inside of us. So if we just kind of check our insides and make the choice to be good, we will know that's the truth. That is good. That is what we ought to do. So that's one way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appeals to our sense of good and bad. That's one. The second way is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes these logical arguments in a very heart connecting sort of way in the Quran. And we've been going through the surahs in the 30th juz, and we've been seeing examples of that. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala touches the heart. So that emotional connection with God is the second way. The third way is warning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us that if we were to, let's say, not make the right choice, then eventually it'll be bad for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us 99 times more than a mother would love a child. And it is out of that affection for his creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to warn us. That warning is supposed to serve as a hujjah, or as an evidence for, of course, pulling us away from doing something bad. But also, if we still make that choice, then it'll serve as evidence against us on the day of judgment. Now, that warning is what Surah Zalzala is about. So I'm going to go to Surah Zalzala and just tell you a little bit about it. This surah is supposed to be Madani, which means it was revealed after the Hijrah. But the manner in which the verses flow, you will get this feeling that it's kind of like a Makki surah, because the verses are very short and very specific and, very kind of depictive of a scene. Surah Zalzala. The word Zalzala, as we use in our language as well, it means an earthquake. But the way it's used in the Quran here, it means the ultimate earthquake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will describe that in the verses that we will see. Before I go into this, though, I need us to understand that Allah's warning, that third part that I talked about, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to beware of making the wrong choice. That third part, warning, Allah's warnings come in the Quran in many different ways. One of those ways is when Allah describes the events of the Day of Judgment. So we have been talking about some of those events. For example, in Surah At-Takwir, we talked about those events as well. Some things will happen before the Day of Judgment that will lead into the Day of Judgment. Those are called the signs of the Day of Judgment. How many of you are familiar with the signs? Just go ahead and type it in the chat window. How many of you have heard of some of the signs of the Day of Judgment? Those signs are supposed to act as warnings. They're supposed to be reminders for us. For example, there's this one sign that you may have heard of, which is that the barefooted shepherds will compete with each other to build tall buildings. And many people say that whatever is happening in the Gulf today is an example of that. Allahu A'lam, maybe that is the case. But what is the objective of that sign? It is supposed to serve as a reminder, a warning. Whoa, one of the signs that the Prophet ﷺ talked about is here. I better be careful, because just like this, eventually we're moving from one sign to another towards the Day of Judgment. So Surah Az-Zalzala talks about an event of the Day of Judgment. Yeah, that's right. The minor and the major signs. That's right. So when the Zalzala happens, I just want to put it in context. Before we go into the surah, I want to put it in context, because those major and minor signs will have come to pass. So let me just walk you through some of those signs as a reminder, so that we know, okay, when the Zalzala happens, what will have already happened. And inshallah, we will also talk about what will happen after that point. That's right. So our sister is saying the sun will rise from the west, Dabbatul Ard. Let's put it in context. And the sequence that I'm going to share with you is what the traditional scholars of Islam, this is the sequence that they've understood based on the various narrations from the Prophet ﷺ, the ahadith, and from the verses of the Quran. This is what they've understood. But these are mutashabihat. We don't know for sure whether this is exactly the sequence in which it will happen. We know that these things will happen, but the exact sequence only Allah knows best. This is the sequence that the traditional scholars of Islam have put together. So that's the sequence I'm going to share with you. By the time the Zalzala happens, this Surah Al-Zalzala, we're going to talk about the earthquake. But when that happens, some other things will already have happened. So for example, the Mahdi, you've heard of the Mahdi, Muhammad bin Abdullah al-Mahdi, he will have come, and the Dajjal will have come out. You've heard of the Dajjal as well. And Isa alayhi salam will have come out and have killed the Dajjal, which is supposed to happen. So that will already have happened. And after that, the Ya'juj and the Ma'juj will also have come out and have spread their corruption, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have wiped them out as well. And then, I'm sure many of you know, but some of you may not know, the Kaaba will have been destroyed. That's one of the signs, major signs, that will come for the Day of Judgment. And then the dukhan, the thick smoke that will cover the entire world, that will also have happened. We also know that the sun will have come out from the west 3 times before it comes out from the east. It seems that will have happened. Then the dabba, which our sister mentioned, dabba, this word means the beast. This beast will come out and it will stamp the foreheads of the disbelievers. Again, we don't know how that will happen, but this is something that is supposed to happen. And one of the last signs is that a fire will come out from Aden, which is that's right. So the Quran will have been raised from people's memories, and it will no longer. That's right. That's another one of the signs. So a fire will come out from Aden. Of course, I'm not mentioning every single one. I'm just trying to put it in sequence. There are many other signs, of course. The last sign is that a fire will emerge from Aden, which is in Yemen, and this fire will kind of force people to move. And they will move to Al-Mahshar, the place where they will be gathered, and eventually that's the place where apparently resurrection will take place. According to Ibn Kathir of the Tafsir Ibn Kathir fame, who also wrote Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. So he mentions that the land in which people will have gathered is the land of Asham, which is the area we today call Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria, that region. So that's the region apparently where people at that time, whoever those people are, of the future, they will apparently be living there at that time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a chilly wind, a cold wind. And this cold wind will reach everywhere. And the believers among those people, people who have even a little bit of belief in their heart and iman in their heart and goodness in their heart, they will all pass away from the chilly wind. They will all pass away. This is one of the signs that will happen. And in fact, the Prophet said that even if this person is a believer and is in the innermost part of the mountain, somehow the chilly wind will reach that part of the inside of the mountain as well, and that believer will pass away. So that means basically not a single person who believes in Allah and accountability of the last day, not a single believer will remain on the earth, which means the people who will remain are the ones who are clearly disbelievers. They've made their own choices and they don't want to have anything to do with goodness. In fact, the words that the Prophet used are وَيَبْقَى شَرَارُ الْخَلْقِ. That means the ones who will remain will be the worst of creation. And this word is, even in English, it sounds very unpleasant. And in Arabic, it sounds worse. شِرَارُ الْخَلْقِ, meaning the worst of creation. They're the only ones who remain. The Prophet described them and he said that they don't know any goodness and they have no idea how to forbid evil. These are things that good people are supposed to do. Allah has ordered us to do it, not only to do good ourselves, but also to ask other people to do good and in whatever way we can, and to stop people from doing bad. This is our responsibility. But these people, they don't do any of that, and these people are the worst. And then shaitan will come to them in the form of a human being. This is what the Prophet described to us. And he said, he will say to them, will you not respond to my call? And they say, okay, what is your call? And he will then tell them the worshipping of idols. It will come back. So the people will then start worshipping idols. I'm not going to a lot of detail because my topic today is not the signs of the Day of Judgment. I'm just trying to put the Zalzala in context. Otherwise, there's a lot of detail about this as well. So these people will begin to worship idols and they will have a very comfortable life, and years apparently will go by, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will command Israfil, the angel Israfil, to blow one breath in the trumpet. This is the Swad Waw Ra, Sur Israfil. This is the first blow in the trumpet. That blow in the trumpet will not be a quick one. It'll last for a while. And that blow in the trumpet is basically the beginning of the Day of Judgment. When people hear it, their faces will turn right and left because they'll wonder where this very loud sound is coming from. The first person to hear it will be apparently a man who's taking his camels to their watering place, and another person will be putting some food in his mouth, meaning these people will be going about their lives and not have any worry, and suddenly the Day of Judgment will start and people will forget whatever they're doing. In Surah An-Naml, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ فَفَزِعَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ. That means, and then on that day when the trumpet is blown, people, whoever is in the heavens and on the earth will shake with fear, except whom Allah wills. This is in Surah An-Naml. And then the events of the Day of Judgment will begin. So people will be really terrified, and the sun will lose its light. As we studied in Surah Takwir, we saw إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انْكَدَرَتْ وَإِذَا الْجِبَالُ سُيِّرَتْ وَإِذَا الْعِشَارُ عُطِّلَتْ وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِرَتْ وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ. So the sun and the stars and everything is falling down and losing their light, and the mountains will begin to move, and people's assets, homes and cattle and whatever they have, they'll be left abandoned and no one will be caring about them. And the animals will kind of come together. The ones that eat other animals, all of those, so the lions and the sheep, everyone will be together out of fear because they will also not know what's going on. And all of this is happening to which kind of human beings? The worst of the creation. وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ, and the seas will light up on fire. And then that blow of the trumpet will eventually end everyone's life. All life will die in the heavens and the earth. Everyone will die. Once again, I'm emphasizing everyone on earth will die, of course, whoever's alive at that time, every creature, and everyone in the heavens will also die. And then, and this is in Surah Ghafir, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he will say at that time, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ. And who whose is the kingdom this day? And no one will answer because there will be no one around. No one will answer. It'll be absolute quiet. No one will respond. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will himself reply to this question. Lillahi al-wahid al-qahhar. It is Allah's, the one, the irresistible. I'm so sorry. The English does not do it justice. And these words, if your Urdu language is strong, then you will perhaps feel the power of these words as well. But in English, basically, it means Lillahi al-wahid al-qahhar. That means it belongs to Allah, the one, the supreme. And then basically, now that everyone's dead, we don't know how long they will stay dead for. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send water from above, and that water will come from his arsh because there's no sky, everything is gone, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create whatever he wants to create, and then this water will come down from his own throne, his arsh. And this water will penetrate deep into the earth, and wherever the remains of people are, and it seems that even the last remaining people on the earth will now have, their bodies will have rotted away and finished, and except for the tailbone. And this water will reach the tailbone, and then that's how these people will spring back to life. And according to the hadith, the duration is 40. Well, what does 40 mean? We don't know. 40 minutes, 40 seconds, 40 days, 40 years. We don't know what 40 means. We just know that it's 40, and Allah knows best. So then people will come out, and at that time, they will come out. We will all come out, just the way we were created. The body will come back to the same size, but without any clothes, uncircumcised, barefooted. And this all will happen with the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this 40 is nothing compared to the total duration of the Day of Judgment. Yes, the Day of Judgment has already started, but can someone remind me what is the actual duration of the Day of Judgment? How long is it? We've talked about this before. So what is the actual duration of the Day of Judgment as mentioned in the Quran? Can someone please type it in the chat window? Appreciate it. So in the meanwhile, I will continue. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recreate Israfil, 50,000 years. That's right, 50,000 years. 50,000 alf sana. 50,000 years, the total duration, out of which 40 apparently is a small segment of that. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recreate Israfil, alayhi salam, and then Israfil will be ordered to blow through the trumpet again. And it is through the blowing of the trumpet that people will come back to life. You know, because otherwise they'll just be bodies, right? And now they will have souls and they will come back to life. And it seems that the angels from the seven heavens will come down, and all of creation will be kind of in the center. And then the angels will form concentric circles around them, and all of us in the creation will be in the center of that. And this is described in also in Surah At-Takwir, وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ, when the souls will be paired, in this case paired with their bodies. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ, and when the newborn who was buried alive will be asked, for what sin was she killed? That is the beginning of the Day of Judgment. It'll be new earth, a new sky, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ, the earth will be stretched. We will not be able to recognize, when we come out, we will not be able to recognize what everything looks like. But it is at that time when there will be no light. The angels will have come, but there will be no light, and people will still be waiting, and the angels will come carrying a throne, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not have come yet. But eventually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. And again, I'm very conscious of time, so I can't really go into more detail. All I want to mention is one very beautiful verse from Surah Al-Zumar, where there will be no light, and then how will people know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has arrived? It is through the nur, because the surah says, وَأَشْرَقَتِ الْأَرْضُ بِنُورِ رَبِّهَا, and the earth will shine with the light of its Lord. وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابِ, and people's scorecards will be laid down for them. So these are the events. So it is in these events that Surah Zalzala forms one of those events, which is the shaking of the earth. Why is that shaking of the earth relevant? That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in this surah. So let's go through the surah now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. When the earth is shaken, its ultimate shaking, which means we don't really understand what that shaking is. Yeah, sure, on this earth we've seen earthquakes. For those of you who were, let's say, in the north of our country back in 2005, you saw that huge earthquake at that time. Maybe at other times in your life you've seen other earthquakes, but this is nothing like that. This is zilzalaha. That means it's a special type of shaking, like really terrible type of shaking. And then it says, وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. And when the earth throws out all of its contents, whatever's inside of it. What's inside of it? Two possible explanations. One, of course, is the bodies of the dead will be thrown out. Everything that's inside will be thrown out. And secondly, all of the treasures of the earth will be thrown out. And human beings will see those treasures and realize, oh, this is the stuff we used to fight over, all the gold and the silver, and all of that will also be thrown out. But anyway, everything is that inside of the earth, it will give all of that up. وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. And humanity will cry, what's wrong with it? What's happening? What's going on? Because they will not understand. And it continues, يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا. On that day, the earth will recount everything. It will recount everything. So hold on here. Think about this for a moment. It will recount. What will it recount? According to Sayyidina Abu Huraira, he said the Prophet recited this verse, يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا, and then he said, do you know what it would recount? And they said, Allah and His Messenger have the best knowledge. So the Prophet explained, the earth will testify to the deeds which every man and every woman has done on its back, on the back of the earth, which means the earth will be one of those witnesses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have many witnesses on that day. One of those witnesses will be the earth that we walk on, because the earth sees what we do and the earth records what we do. Those records will be laid bare. And the earth is not the only witness. There are many other witnesses. Among them, by the way, our own bodies, our own limbs will bear witness against us, or hopefully for us. But they will also be witness. Our own skin will be a witness. And, it's described in the Quran about people, and may Allah not make us among them, the people whose own limbs and skin will be testifying against them. They will complain, why are you doing that? Because you're a part of me. Eventually, you'll be punished as well. And they will say, the one who made everything else talk also made us talk. Meaning Allah made the earth talk, Allah also made us talk. So it is by the order of the earth that, by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the earth will also talk. So be mindful of that. In fact, people were so careful about this. The Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, were so careful about this. They would, Ali radiallahu anh, for example, he had a Baytul Mal where the donations and the zakat and everything was stored. So when he would fill it up and then empty it to give it to the needy, after that he would pray 2 rakah prayer in it. And then he would talk to the land of the Baytul Mal. And he would say, you will have to bear witness that I filled you up with justice and I emptied you with justice. He was so concerned about the fact that this part of the earth will bear witness, could potentially bear witness for him or against him. And the Prophet ﷺ said, this is the weak narration, but the lesson, of course, is quite authentic. Beware of the earth, for it is your root and basis, and there is nothing which a person does on it that it will not report, whether it is good or bad. And this is another hadith. He said, the earth on the day of resurrection will bring out every act that would be done on its back. Then he recited this verse, يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا بِأَنَّ رَبَّكَ أَوْحَى لَهَا, because Allah ordered it, Allah inspired it to do so. And at that time then, now that all the evidence is there, everyone will be judged. Every single person will be judged. It's a very long day, and I mentioned this before. So inshallah, in a couple of minutes, I'll share a dua with you that we should make for that day. But the day itself is so stressful that people who know that they're going to go to hell, even they will begin to make dua to Allah to let the judgment start. It'll be so difficult for them because it'll be very hot. People will be drowning in their own sweat, and the amount of sweat will depend on the kinds of deeds they did in this world. So the reason for the sweat, of course, is because they're stressed out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسُ أَشْتَاتًا لِيُرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُم. On that day, people will proceed in separate groups to be shown the consequences of their deeds. So now that they realize what's going to happen to them, now they're really sweating it out. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ. So whoever did even a particle's weight, an atom's weight of good, will see it. Dharra, dharra, we use the word zarra in our language as well. But dharra is the smallest thing you can imagine. The tiniest possible thing you can imagine. So whoever did an atom's weight of good will see it. وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. And whoever did an atom's weight of evil will also see it. So once Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was having a meal with the Prophet ﷺ, and these verses were revealed. So Abu Bakr rada'an, he stopped eating. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, what happened? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, shall I see the result of every little evil that I have happened to commit? The Prophet ﷺ replied, Ya Abu Bakr, whatever unpleasant and troublesome things you experience in this world, they will compensate for the little evils that you happen to commit. And Allah is reserving every little good that you do for your hereafter. So in that is good news for us, because some of us will really freak out. We don't realize sometimes we intend to do good, but then we make these small mistakes. And the Prophet told Abu Bakr that we come across difficulties in this world. We come across hard times in this world. And those hard times and difficulties in this world, they compensate for the little mistakes that we make here and there. And the small good things that we might also do on the day of judgment, they will still be in our accounts, which is, of course, a huge blessing. So the Prophet said, save yourselves from the fire of hell, even if it be by giving away a little piece of a date, not even a full date, a piece of a date, or by uttering a good word. If you have the opportunity to do anything good, even if it's something small, then do it. Once a woman came to our mother Aisha, and she was very poor, didn't have anything to eat. So our mother Aisha, of course, the household of the Prophet was also not very wealthy. So all she had was one date. And the Prophet was not home. So she gave that woman one date. That one day, this is all I have. And that woman had two of her daughters with her. So that woman split that date into two and gave one half to one daughter and one half to the other daughter. And she did not take anything for herself. And our mother Aisha, as you know, was not a biological mother. So when the Prophet came, she was amazed by that. And so she told the Prophet about this. And the Prophet told her about, are you amazed that she loves her children like this? And then she went on to talk about how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves his creation, which is far, far more than the love that this mother had for her children. But anyway, even giving food to your family is a type of charity. So this woman, when she was giving those the pieces of dates to her daughters, that's also a small charity. And then the Prophet also said, do not look upon any good work as insignificant, even if it be emptying a bucket into the vessel of anyone asking for water. Meaning you have a little bit of water left, and somebody asks for water, and you don't have a lot of water, but whatever little you had, you even pour that. That's a little bit of good. And then another example that he gave is that you see a brother or sister of yours, and you want to spread kindness and you want to spread happiness, so you smile at them. That is also charity. That's also a good small charity that on the day of judgment will see it. The Prophet is specifically while addressing women, he said, O Muslim women, no woman should look upon sending a gift to her neighbor as a small thing, even if it be the hoof of a goat. Meaning you might think, I don't have very good quality meat, so all I have is this. I mean, how much is this going to be worth? The Prophet said, even if it's something small, don't think it's little. Go ahead and do it. Be kind to each other in whatever small way you can. And the Prophet said to our mother Aisha, abstain from the sins which are looked upon as trivial, for they too will be inquired about by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said, beware of minor sins, for they will gather together on a man, so much so that they will destroy him. We got to be careful of the small things, and then inshallah that will help us take care of the big things. So this is dharra. All of this that I discussed with you is about this word dharra, particle, atom's weight, small thing. The small things matter. The small goods also matter, and the small evils also matter. We got to be careful about these small ones. This is Surah Az-Zalzala. What are the 3 points that we got from this surah? Number one, we know that the Zalzala itself, the shaking of the earth, after which everything will come out, that shaking of the earth is one of the events of the Day of Judgment. The second thing that we learned is that the earth itself will become a witness of our deeds. It watches us. It records everything that we do, along with other things that are recording. The angels over here are recording. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, knows all of this himself as well. But the reason why all of these other witnesses are there, so that the evidence is final. And so that is justice. And remember, we don't want justice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want his mercy. When we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we do not ask for justice because we will be destroyed. So let's ask for mercy. Oh Allah, we seek your mercy. We seek your mercy because we are certainly not worth it. The third thing, people that we learn from this is that people will be divided up into groups. So one group will have one direction they're going in, and the other group will have other direction they're going in. You obviously know which group we want to be in. So make sure that you and I, we all try to do the actions that help us land in the group that is of the ones that are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I promised that I will share a dua. I've shared this before, I think once before, but in case I haven't, let me just share it again. This is a dua that I recommend you guys memorize. It's a very simple dua. This is a dua that is mentioned in a hadith of the Prophet where with Aisha radiallahu anha. Allahumma hasibni hisaban yasira. Oh Allah, grant me an easy reckoning, meaning make my hisab easy, make my accountability easy. So the Prophet explained that easy reckoning means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, it's as if imagine that you are checking someone's test and you're scoring it and you say, yeah, I see you did that right and did that right as well, and then did that right as well. And in between you can see that the guy messed up like 7 questions. And you kind of ignore that and you just move on and move on and move on. You kind of ignore the mistakes and you just, say, okay, by and large, you were okay. And say, okay, you passed. That's an easy reckoning. Because the Prophet said, anyone who gets a difficult reckoning has been destroyed. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an easy reckoning. Make sure you memorize this dua and make sure you make this dua as frequently as you can. I will end with our homework for next week, which is, I will inshallah share this in the group. It's a recitation of Surah Al-Zalzala by Qari Ra'ad al-Kurdi, a beautiful Hafs recitation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us this half hour that we spent together, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us and give us the tawfiq to get close to him and raise us in the group of people who will end up among his muqarrabeen in the shade of his throne on the Day of Judgment. Ameen. Inshallah, I will see you guys next week, next Saturday at 5 p.m. Assalamu alaikum.